All right, Reusse Unchained here. I'll be honest. I thought, and I think can't remember which one of you other guys had this one in your picks, but I thought this was going to be a classic letdown game against the Saints. That the Josh Dobbs magic carpet ride would hit a wall, but it kind of did in the second half offensively. But man, he might just be good, Pat. He might just be better than your journeyman backup quarterback. He can run, he can throw, he's smart.
Yes, and our coach really wanted. Our coach talked immediately about the asset of mobility, and then, as Judd pointed out, he tried to back off that a little
Yeah,
bit because
yeah.
he
It's
knew
not really, it's not necessary,
he
but
was trying to get the Kirkies. He didn't want to get the Kirkies too upset, but he. We have seen the future here. I don't know if it's him, but it's going to be a quarterback who can move. It's that it just makes life so much easier. And then you don't get nearly as much whining about the offensive line as people have had a tendency. Every time Kirk is not. Let's say that the Kirk bandwagon shifted about 2 years ago. Before then, everybody else was kind of down on him. But then it became every time he had a bad game, it's because he got hit 4 times. Well, every quarterback gets hit 4 times unless he can run away from them.
right.
So
Thank you.
it's but it was O'Connell telling us this is the kind of quarterback we want. We're not sure we're going to tie our wagon to Josh for the next 5 years, but we want a quarterback who can move, and that's and so does the league. Basically, everybody around the league is looking for a guy like that. That's why some of these guys like Josh Fields get overdrafted because they can move, and Trey Lance, talk about a guy overvalued because he could move a little bit. 3 number ones, and now he's a third teamer in Dallas, and you're still paying the price for trading for him. So yeah, it's a revelation to say the least, and he's being assisted though by a much wiser defense than Kirk was playing with last year. I mean, they went after Carr and knocked the hell out of him and got him knocked out of the game. So yeah, I mean, they're even with Dobbs playing the way he did, if the Saints were moving the ball at all the first half, it wouldn't have been that bad, But the defense took them out of the game completely too. So they're all of us. Judd and I were talking about this yesterday. They're better than they were last year when they were wherever the heck their record was at this time of year. This is a better team than that was last year. What were they? What were they after 10 last year?
Were they 9-1?
Were they 9-1? Something like that. 8-2, 9-1. Yeah, they were. They hadn't lost many, but they're better. But I do. They're going to have interesting ball games with the Lions after watching the Lions. Lions are now strictly an offensive team. They basically had to go for it on 4th and 2 from the 40 or so, or the 35, because they didn't want to kick a field goal and go ahead by 3 with 2 minutes to go. They knew that 2.5 minutes to go, they knew they were going to lose. They knew that the Chargers were going to come down and score a touchdown. So they had to. I mean, you got to give Campbell credit. He's got large ones on him, that's for sure. But but he was smart enough to know, hey, we can't stop him. We got to do something here. So it's fun to have somebody chasing you, though, isn't it? Have looking down the road, looking ahead of a game here. The Packers are now that the Packers come to town. It doesn't make any difference. They stink. It's not. You need somebody to be good, and who would have guessed it's going to be the Lions? For goodness' sake, not me.
Yeah, it's awesome. Go ahead, Judd.
Enjoy it while it lasts too. But I think Campbell learned too, Pat. If you recall, it was the game last year that was here in which he tried to. I think he went for it on like fourth downs throughout the course of the game here, made them all. And then do you recall near the end of that game, he tried to kick a field goal. He missed and the Vikings went down and scored. So yes. I think he might have learned from that too, which is, if you're going to have big brass ones, keep it up the entire game. Don't back off when it actually matters the most.
He might. And in the modern NFL, 50 seconds is a long time. I mean, these teams get into field goal range and kick them from 55 yards. If you go ahead with 50 seconds to go by 2 points against almost everybody, you're going to get beat because they're going to have some guy come out and kick a 55-yarder with 3 seconds left on the clock. You gotta put them away. You gotta bury them, else you can get beat now. And and last year the Vikings were example A of that. That you had to stomp them into the ground, else they were going to come down and something good was going to happen, and they were going to win the ball game. So which, of course, as we've said 100 times, is the secret of the modern NFL. You don't know who's going to win until it's over. But it's an odd year, and we now have the biggest flop in the league is the Buffalo Bills, for goodness sakes. They lose at home to the Denver. They were, I was out there last year for a day, and this was like Bills dynasty time coming now. And how many lost at home now? 4 or something like that. They've been terrible at home. They've been terrible.
Yeah, well, they've lost 2 games at home, but they're 5-5 on the season now. Yeah.
Ooh, boy, I'd hate to be out there. All of a sudden, they're not having that Josh Allen parade anymore. That was, Reusse. I didn't watch a lot of the game. I watched some of it. Reusse is terrible. He can't move anymore. He can't run away from people, and he still comes back and beats that team.
It's bad. The Broncos aren't good. They just kind of chunk their way with little check downs, and there was a play toward the end of the game where, the Broncos are on the edge of field goal range and driving to kick a game-winning field goal.
Yes.
And McDermott dials up 2 straight 0 blitzes where they send everyone. They got Russell Wilson for a sack on the first one, so they said, let's do it again. And so Russell takes the snap 2 steps, like literally just leans back and throws a bomb down the field. It was probably 15 yards short, and so the defender crashes into the wide receiver as he's looking to go back. He can't throw a deep ball anymore like he used to. He can't move, but there's somehow Sean Payton has gotten this team back to 4-5. So
yeah, we were having all the Sean Payton haters were having a lot of fun when he gave up 70 this year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's not a walkover Sunday night, but I still like the way the Vikings are playing. I still like them to go out there and win because Denver's not
Vikings
that good.
are better. Yep.
If I told you guys in September, if I had pulled you aside in September and said, get this, the Vikings are going to play the Broncos in that Sunday night game. The quarterbacks are going to be Russell Wilson against Joshua Dobbs. And oh, by the way, Dobbs is going to be the better quarterback going into that game. You would have me drug tested.
Yes, yeah. You would much rather have Josh Dobbs. You got to give Seattle credit, man. They knew it. They knew he was fading, and they said, we don't care. We'll take 32-year-old Geno Smith and put him back here who's never played so we can get rid of this contract. And, our guy is kind of the second coming of Geno Smith, except Geno wasn't, I don't think, as much of an athlete as him. But the background is, Geno was written off completely for a longer period than this guy was. And but when he started some games for the Jets 8 years ago or something, and then he hadn't played basically, and now he's the other. I heard him being interviewed on NFL radio the other day, and they brought up, you're throwing some interceptions and blah blah blah. And he said, I don't know, we had 400 yards passing or something like that. He said so, or we put up over 400 yards. He said so. We're not too worried about it. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Geno we've kind of used Geno for people wondering, what is there a future for if Dobbs keeps playing this way? So Geno Smith had that one big year last year, and they signed him by today's quarterback standards to a pretty discounted deal. He makes $25 million, and it's 2 years kind of guaranteed. He's the 18th highest paid quarterback, so they can still afford to go out and do stuff in free agency. If Dobbs plays well and he wants to sign a Geno Smith contract while the Vikings look for their actual quarterback of the future, I don't know that would be the worst thing.
I don't think he'll get the word. I don't think he'll get that much, though. Do you? Is he? What's his contract situation? Do we know?
He's a free agent. He's a free agent at the end of the year.
Well, obviously, a lot of it depends upon how this thing plays out, right? If he keeps playing like this, yeah, somebody will come. Somebody, the Jets would take him. The Patriots would
Oh
take him.
man,
Somebody'd
yeah.
take him. Yeah. How about Matt Jones, man? They'd rather have Zaki or whatever the hell is it, Zasi or whatever, some
Zappy,
guy
Bailey Zappy. Yeah.
Zossi
nobody ever
sounds like
heard
a
of
hot
this.
sauce.
They'd rather have this guy play who's never played. He wasn't even good in college, and they'd rather have him. What a way for Belichick to go out, huh? Wow.
This is it
Just
for Bill.
Yeah, he's done. He's done there. He might end up going.
Right.
He's 71, isn't he?
I
71.
think he's older than that, isn't he?
Is that right?
Here,
Yeah.
let's
Well,
go with this real quick.
why didn't he just hang it? What's he want to? He's got more money than God.
Okay, you're right. He is 71. Did you see that video, by the way, that's going viral on social media where it's some beach house and Bill Belichick is caught on the Ring camera shirtless walking out of this beach house. It's some sort of like booty call or whatever.
He's a player. He's a player.
He's like walking to his car with no shirt on in the morning.
Well, I love the fact that when they did the life of Belichick on the NFL, he said, well, they're going to show him what he does when he relaxes. So they showed him playing a round of golf all by himself. You could tell he couldn't stand it. He was like played 9 holes and was out there walking by himself. I don't even know if he had golf shoes on. He was just, playing 9. It was a blustery day. He was miserable, but he was going to show. They were going to show what he does when he's not involved in football. Nothing. That's what he does when he's not. Maybe a booty call once in a while. I don't know. Is he currently married? I'm not sure.
He has a girlfriend, I think.
I think it's the girlfriend thing. I don't think it's.
Yeah, his last listed spouse was Debbie Clark Belichick, and they were married from 1977 to 2006.
Yeah,
really?
She got left for the secretary, right?
And
I think she got. I think she got left for the secretary with the a secretary with the Patriots.
Okay.
When you're winning Super Bowls, you can mess around with the secretary. When you're not, then you can get. Then they can use
HR calls you in,
fire,
and then they can run you out. That's for sure.
So I'm looking at Bill Belichick's coaching tree on Wikipedia, and it's really bad. And Josh McDaniels is the latest failure. But they list Kevin O'Connell under the coaching tree because he was a player under Belichick.
No, he isn't on the coaching tree. He is not on the coaching tree.
He's
you got to have been an assistant for a guy to be on the coaching tree. And their problem is, as his coaching tree's problem is, he was so damn good, they didn't have to be any good. I always thought when he was at the top of his game that he, standing on the sideline, shielding his eyes from the sun, saw more than anybody else who's looking at hours and hours of tape. He was brilliant, I think, as a coach. He was just unbelievable. Now he had the quarterback, but he made this quarterback. Brady could have came into the league and never played if it wasn't for him. He was a 6th-round draft choice, and he had Bledsoe. My friend Ron Borges was a columnist at the Boston Globe. Great guy. You remember him writing a column going with Brady in the playoff game, the first playoff game, instead of going back to Borges was the stupidest decision of all time, And then they had the tuck, and then they won the Super Bowl, right? Yeah. They won the Super Bowl after the tuck, right?
Bledsoe almost dying was the greatest thing to happen to Bill because if you remember, I think it was against the Jets, he took that hit, and I think in Oregon, I think he had internal injuries, and that's when they were forced to play Tom, and that changed everything.
When were we out there? And we were out there on I guess just a regular season game when Bledsoe and the Vikings had a real good team, and Bledsoe passed for like 600 yards against them or
like
something.
95.
And I think they had to go to overtime to win it. They had to go to overtime to win it. But I remember standing in the end zone because we'd had us come down in overtime, standing in the end zone before they redid Foxborough. It was a dump. And they scored right in the end zone in front of us for that was a bad Denny loss, that one. Was that 95 way back then?
I think it was 94. I'm going through because I remember watching that game as a kid. It was 1994. It was week 11. They lost 26-20 in overtime. The Vikings were 7-2 going into that game.
Yeah.
And
that team
they
went
jumped
to
out.
play.
Vikings were up 20-0 in that game in the first half.
That's why I
and they
remember
did
it. Yeah.
not score again. The Patriots came all the way back.
Yeah. Who? I have no idea who would have been coaching the Patriots back then. It was
Yeah, you do. I think you do.
college guy, wasn't it? College.
Barry?
Who was it?
Bill Parcells was coaching the Patriots that year.
What?
Yeah.
Really? Was that?
Wasn't that his
when
first
he came
year?
back?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he came back. That's right.
Because then he left for the Jets.
The box score. So Warren Moon threw for 349 in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then Drew Bledsoe threw 70 passes for 426 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And who did when we got lit up for a huge number of passing yards, there were references back to that game. It was the most ever thrown against them and the most ever yards for them. And I remember that track. It was unexpected because Foxborough was the Patriots were stuck out there in the woods and no development around it at all. I think it was the first time I'd ever been there. You were saying, God, how'd they end up stuck down here?
That was a Dungy defense, right?
Huh?
I think that was Dungy's defense as well. I think Tony was the DC back then.
Yeah, he was still here, right? Wasn't he?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. Anyway, that was a he was the future. Well, he played a long time for him for sure, Bledsoe. He could sling it, but he was a little more mobile than Kirk, but he was kind of a standing target, great big old guy.
Kind of a similar. He was. I would say Bledsoe was like early to mid '90s Kirk, and that he was going to give you. You look at the numbers, like wow, this guy's lighting it up, bunch of yards. But every year his team was like 9 wins, maybe 10 wins. Didn't quite have the same juice to get his team.
No, he didn't. That was but we got to remember before Belichick got there, what a god awful franchise they were traditionally. I mean, they popped up and went to that Super Bowl, got their lunch handed to them. Tony Eason was Tony Eason was it?
Yeah, Tony Eason.
And Raymond Berry was the coach.
Yeah, and I covered that Super Bowl in New Orleans, and Eason got the Bears defense. They hit him about 6 times in the first quarter, and he said no thank you. And poor Steve Grogan had to come in and play the last 3 quarters and get that crap knocked out of him. And
Steve Grogan.
I mean, the Bears skit, the SNL Bears skit, is basically a documentary about that that team was unbelievable that they only won Super Bowl with that defense. It was the damnedest thing of all time. I was to 2 straight NFL championship games down there. Phil Simms, one of them, and Dieter Brock was the quarterback for the Rams. And Dieter damn near got killed. And with the Giants game, the wind was blowing so hard, the punter missed the ball. The punter missed the ball. Sean Landetta, was it? Sean Landetta.
That's good. If it was, that's punter? A great pull. Great punter.
Sean Landetta missed the ball. This is all you need. The Bears are roaring and coming at you, and now you give them the ball at the 20 because you missed the ball on a punt. What beatings those were. Drunk, vile, happy Bears crowds. It was the worst place in America to come in and play football. Of course, we all remember the Archie Manning, the photo. I think it was the St. Paul paper he got the photo, and maybe not Minneapolis, but his eyes are rolling through his head when he gets sacked, and he stayed in the game.
He got sacked 11 times that day, right?
Yeah, and nobody else wanted to go in, but they got a picture of him with his head rolling, and it was his eyes are rolling. And they said, get back out there, Archie. None of these other guys want to play.
just roll him back, just prop him up like prop him up.
He was with Tommy, and Tommy was there. And who else was there then when he was?
That was the Steckel season, right?
When 84. Well, Wade Wilson had to be around too.
Kramer was probably hurt by then.
Yeah. Unreal. That's another one when we're talking about, I'm going to try to do something on Vikings backup quarterbacks glory, not when they switched because they wanted to, but when the quarterback got hurt. Tommy got hurt in 87. Wilson hadn't played at all. He'd been here 7 years and hadn't played at all. They put him in, and he made that run. And then Bernsey was as loyal to him as he loved Tommy. So it was really hard for Tommy. He was like Zim trying to get on the Bernsey trying to get on the Wade Wilson bandwagon, was Zim trying to get on the Case Keenum bandwagon. He just couldn't do it,
I just pulled up the stats from that game you guys are talking about in 1984. So, yeah, Archie took 11 sacks for 101 yards. 7 different Bears players had at least a sack in that game.
When was what day? When was that? What was the date?
It was Sunday, October 28th, 1984.
That was about the time that the whole roster said, "We're not playing for less anymore. If I stub my toe, I'm not going to play next week." And by the end, it was, if you'd played football within 100 miles of the Twin Cities, you could get a job with the Vikings by the time that season ended.
The drill sergeant thing on the first day of training camp is one of the all-timers.
Oh, yeah.
He showed up in the fatigues and basically tried to put the players through training.
He also, at one practice, ate chocolate pudding out of a diaper to show him how tough he was.
Oh, God.
Yep, he did.
Oh, he was insane. He was insane. He wasn't a bad guy, but he just was nuts. Wong had the worst line ever. He said, Wong, who, by the way, served, not in Vietnam, but he was in the military during that era, said Les talked about leading men into the jungle, and Wong said he didn't tell us how many he let out.
We're all going in. Who's coming with?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, that's the only, that and Les, Les that year, that awful Les, they have had, in 63 years, they have had only 8 or 10, completely inept teams, right? I wonder if you went through, it'd be that they have been really competitive, and
starting with Bud, Pat, it's incredible.
Better than average. When Bud was bad, they were still mediocre. Right. They would, when Bud, after the wheels went off in the late 70s, they were bad, but they were still, mediocre. The periods of, oh my God, did they stink? They didn't have 20 years like the Packers did before Favre showed up, where they stunk. So, and the Lions, they didn't have, let's see, 57 to now, whatever that is. How many? 23, 66 years of being rotten like the Lions have.
Yeah.
I guess we can't blame the Lions fans for being out over their skis on this team, because it's been a while.
Yeah, they deserve a chance to get crazy. Pat, we gotta run here, but we'll do it again Thursday and Friday with you, sir.
All right. We'll know more about our Wolfies by that time we do that.
Yes, we will.
Everybody watching that game. We play tonight, right? Game tonight, right?
First, the second in-season playoff game for the Wolves. Let's do it.
You beat those guys twice in a row and their home court, then people are going to go a little goofy for sure.
Steph Curry's questionable too, so you might just get a walk in this game if he doesn't play.
Okay. All right. See you, gents.
All right. See you, Pat. All right. Steph Curry. I don't know what is it, like an ankle, knee? I don't know, back, whatever it is. Steph Curry maybe should call the folks at Summit Orthopedics. Whatever type of pain you're dealing with, they've got some help for you. No referrals are needed. Same-day appointments are available. If you're really hurting, Summit Orthopedics offers walk-in urgent care, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, 25 locations in the Twin Cities and greater Minnesota. You can learn more at summitortho.com. That's summitortho.com.